The Taking of Pelham 123 is a film based off the novel of the same name by John Gowdy. It was directed by Joseph Sargent and stars Robert Shaw. The music was composed by David Shire, a prominent composer of his time. Today, I'll be discussing some of the cues Shire composed for this film and how he utilized jazz and 12-tone elements. First, let's take a look at who David Shire is. Shire was born on July 3, 1937, in Buffalo, New York. Shire's dad taught and played music and taught David piano at a young age. Shire moved to New York after graduating from Yale and began writing for Broadway. At the same time, he was introduced to writing for TV by a friend who worked at Universal Studios. Shire began writing for Western TV shows at Universal and slowly worked his way up through the film composing ranks until he got his first major score on The Taking of Pelham 123. Pelham 123 follows the story of 4 train robbers who hold up a train in New York City demanding $1 million for the hostages' return. The film has a high pace and intensity throughout and is constant motion, as the robbers threaten to kill one hostage every minute if the money isn't delivered within an hour. The score perfectly helps set the mood and enhances the intensity of the film. David Shire's score for The Taking of Pelham 123 is a reflection of musical styles and ideas of its time. The score combines aspects of 12-tone tonality and funk group music akin to the time period. Throughout the movie, there isn't a lot of musical cues, which in turns add a lot of effect and power to when there is. Whenever there is music, it cues to the audience that there is some type of movement within the plot or that something is about to happen. There is a funky drum set groove in the main title, and whenever it comes back in, we know that things are progressing within the film. This is seen when the robbers first take control of the train, or when the government is counting and transporting the money. The drum set groove also emulates the movement of the train and how the movie is leading to one destination with its plot, similar to a train's journey. The drum set groove gives the movie a sense of motion throughout the film. The other musical elements in the cues include sparse chords held out on horns or fast piano lines that infer that something bad may happen. This is seen when a piano run is heard when the mayor gets a phone call in the car, or when Mr. Blue calls the conductor to leave the train car and eventually be killed. The piano serves as a way to draw attention, but not so much, just enough to keep the audience on their toes. Held notes are heard from the brass horns when the robbers are conspiring on the train about what to do next. This subtle increase of tension helps add movement to the story and makes these moments more intense. The movie's main title is one of the 3 cues that I decided to talk about. It features the grooving drum set, which I mentioned previously, with congas, almost similar to James Brown or Herbie Hancock's Headhunters, both popular groups during the 1970s. It features heavy brass instruments playing a mix of atonal-ish moving lines and held notes. It also features repeated notes that feel similar to a march or imperialist music. Near the middle, an atonal-ish melody line is passed from the trumpets to the trombones and then to the woodwinds, creating a chaotic feeling. Then, the main horn melody, previously mentioned, comes back in, but this time with more background and counter lines behind it from the woodwinds. The horn lines overall give a similar feeling to film noir or James Bond movies, as they create a sense of suspense and tension. There is a repeating bass line that is doubled by some instruments such as bari sax and tuba throughout the whole theme. The mix of atonality and 12-tone aspects with groove funk music makes the main title have a unique feeling and creates a perfect mood for the suspenseful storyline that's to come. The cue I previously mentioned about when the conductor of the train is pulled off and killed is one that I chose to dig in a little bit deeper and transcribe. When Mr. Blue calls the conductor's name, a piano run going up is heard. The pitch collection of this run is B, C, C sharp, and D. All of these notes are half steps apart, but the run is spread through octaves. This creates a very tense chord overall, but makes it sound like it has motion as it goes up the octave. This crunch pitch set is heard again a few seconds later in the scene when we hear the horns playing a held out chord. The pitches for the chord are F, G flat, and A flat. This time, the pitch set is crunched within one octave and makes a very dissonant sound. The first pitch set on the piano is generally transposed here to the horns, minus one note. The chord is at a low volume and creates an eeriness to it. The final motif in this cue is a fast piano run that utilizes the notes E flat, E, F, G flat, and A flat. Once again, Shire uses this small pitch set to create tension, but this time he uses it all within one octave instead of displacing it among an octave. Shire used basically the same pitch set in all three of these phrases, but he utilizes them in different ways, using length and octave displacement. This gives them a sense of continuity overall, but still creates breadth and diversity within the cue. The second cue that I decided to transcribe was when Mr. Gray is harassing the women on the train and the cops are counting up and transporting the money. This cue is interesting as it utilizes the mixing of different meters such as 7/4, 6/4, 5/4, and 4/4. It begins with a groove in 7/4 with horn attacks, aided visually with scenes of people counting money. The bass line is A minor, yet the horns play notes belonging to an E flat triad. Shire utilizes the tension of the tritone here between A and E flat. The scene then cuts to the train. All the instruments drop out besides just the held D note in the bass line and a shaker instrument keeping the 7/4 groove going. The modulation to D minor here implies to the audience that something new is happening. The groove and bass line continues for a couple measures while Mr. Gray starts arguing with the women and Mr. Blue tells him to chill out. During this, the bass line starts moving again at a fast rate and then cuts out when tension begins to build between Mr. Blue and Mr. Gray. Held horn notes are heard when the bass line drops out, changing at irregular intervals. Mr. Gray tells Mr. Blue he does his own killing when the bass line comes back in, but now is D flat. A measure of 4/4 is played and then a measure of 5/4. In these measures, notes are stacked upon each other every 2 beats. The notes stacked in the horns are D flat, A flat, D, and B flat. This creates a D flat 13 flat 9 chord. This chord leads into the same bass line from the 7/4 groove earlier, but now in E flat minor. The tonal progression upward throughout the cue creates a sense of motion throughout the scene. The visuals now cut back to the men wrapping the money with rubber bands. A similar horn line to the beginning of the cue is played rhythmically, but now features the notes E, G, B flat, and E flat. The notes specifically G and E is a sharp contrast to the clear E flat minor tonality in the bass line. An ascending line on the French horn now is heard outlining the notes C, D flat, E, and G. These notes over the E flat infer an E flat half whole diminished scale. An atonalish repeating line is heard now from electric piano over the bass line and groove. This line is interesting as it is not a complete 12-tone row, yet contains 12 notes. It starts with the B and repeats the note B on the 4th note in the pattern. But despite this, the only note not used in the 12-note series is a B flat. The line starts on B2, but then begins to repeat after an 8th note rest each time. The first note also is omitted after the first time, causing the row to be 11 notes. This results in the line being moved around within the measure, starting on the and of one, and then the next measure going to beat one. This displacement of the note cycle gives a chaotic sense accompanying the visuals as the men are counting the money, transporting it. Now, the ascending French horn line is heard again, but now the speed of it is doubled as it comes in every measure. This leads to a cut back to Garver being stressed at the phone, saying there isn't enough time. While this happens, 2 more measures of 7/4 are played, while horn stabs are played on the note E. The scene cuts back to the train and a low E flat is played on a string instrument, which fades out. Overall, This scene has a great sense of motion due to the rising tonality and the mix of moments with very simple held notes and fast-passing eighth note lines. It matches and serves what the visuals are providing perfectly. Overall, David Shire's score for Pelham 123 is an interesting blend of classical 12-tone technique and jazz and funk music. The score perfectly fits the storyline and movie and is a great example of unique film composing. Thanks for watching.